Probably the most romantic thing about Alaska is just the open beauty of it all. I just love being able to get out and go someplace that nobody else is. The mountain behind us is called Flat Top. It's one of my favorite places to go. Late evenings when I get off work, I sometimes like to come up here. On the south side of it, on the right-hand side, we'll see it's kind of a rocky outcropping. Sometimes I'll bring a blanket up here, a bottle of water, and just come up here in the evenings and relax and watch the sunset. It's a very soothing experience that puts everything in perspective, especially after a stressful day. The biggest influence in my life has been my father. He's someone that has been always been very honest. He has the same problems I do about being open and communicating, but he has always been there for me. I got out of the Marines, I decided it was time to move on with my life, get some college under my belt. I'm taking criminal justice classes at the University of Alaska, trying to get a degree in justice. The law system has always fascinated me. I think it's that old euphemism of trying to make a difference. What attracts me to the bodybuilding sport and on the amateur level is that it's purely for the promotion of health and seeing what you can do with your body and the way you can change and sculpt yourself. As far as the workout itself, that is the easy part for me. That's the part I enjoy the most. It's the other aspects that go along with it that give me a hard time, such as the dieting. You have to follow a very strict diet 6 weeks out from competition, to where for the last competition to get the proper nutrition, I was eating every hour. Every hour on the hour that I was awake. It started when I was about 10 years old. My mother got me one of the original 1920 Hershey's cookbooks. I learned to cook mainly from my mother and my sister. Spending time in the kitchen with them, trying to help out, getting in the way. Similar to bodybuilding in the aspect that you go in with the desire to make something and create something. My favorite dish is probably a low-fat 3-cheese lasagna I make. People enjoy that the most. Good cooking gets to my heart. Just like any man, the way to his heart's through his stomach. My ideal woman would be a woman who is attractive, but not in the sense of physical beauty. Someone who looks beyond the material things that most people look for these days. The first question that most women ask these days, it seems like, what kind of car do you drive? Where do you work? What kind of money do you make? Very straightforward. I like someone who is honest and caring and trustworthy. I see myself as being a very patient parent. Someone who makes time to develop a good relationship with whatever children I do have. I believe that I am, in today's society, I don't fit in a lot of aspects simply because I do believe in a lot of the old standards. I still believe in honesty. I believe in being sincere and meaning what you say. Romance to me is being with somebody who cares about you, for who you are, spending time out, going for walks, holding hands, watching the sunrise. I work in a gun shop called Great Northern Guns. My job there basically consists of sales and helping people, teaching basically a little bit more about firearms and what their purpose is with society, and not, getting away from the mentality of like the drive-by shootings and crime. Competition for me, it's part of it. It's called IPSC shooting. It's the International Practical Shooters Confederation. It's a worldwide organization, and it's all basically done with handguns. 3 aspects of it that they score is accuracy, power, and speed. All 3 could carry the same weight. I practice as much as I can. A lot of times during the summertime, I'll shoot around 500 rounds a week. That's quite a bit, but the guys who do really well shoot upwards of around 2,000 rounds a week, but I just don't have, it's hard to make that much time for that. I've had several people tell me that I am the strong silent type. I keep to myself more than I talk. I think everybody has barriers. Ways they keep themselves protected. As far as being myself, I'm always trying to be who I am. I don't try to be something I am not. Communication seems to me to be the most important thing in a relationship between a man and a woman. People really need to just be themselves. Let people see who you really are. It goes along with dating. When people first start dating, they try to hide who they really are and they try to put on a facade. Just be yourself.
I made a mistake of telling my mom after we went to a party that I didn't know how to waltz. So next thing I knew, I was in Fred Astaire dance studio, and it was either that or piano lessons. So I chose ballroom dancing. I think dancing is something that you can teach someone that they can always use all the rest of their life. For a lot of people, finding out that I'm a police officer is kind of a shock to them. I'm a conservationist officer as well. Take care of the seal rookeries and kind of monitor poaching and things like that. I'm an EMT, emergency medical technician. I do and coordinate search and rescue. If some of the fishing vessels out there get in trouble, we respond to that. Or someone's lost on the island or another neighboring island, we go look for them. I'm a firefighter. I work I'm stationed in St. George. It's about 780 miles west of Anchorage. St. George has a permanent population of about almost, I'd say about 300 people. I went out to Dutch Harbor as a counselor, and I was talking to one of the ladies that's a parks director there, and she goes, "So I always wanted to learn how to waltz," and I said, "Oh, I can teach you." And then the next thing you know, I was teaching a class in Dutch Harbor, which is, again, not the most famous place for ballroom dancing. My first class had a big turnout, about 30 people, and everybody walked in, and no one knew who the instructor was. So when I closed the door and I kind of had to latch it because the wind was there, always blowing open, I had to latch it because they were locked in there, and they turned around and saw this big black guy that was the instructor. That was kind of fun. My last class that I did teach in Dutch Harbor, I had two couples that met and were eventually married from there, so that was okay. I guess those waltz and the tango paid off, and I decided to get married.
He's kind, considerate, handsome, giving. He'll work. He's my eldest. He's the first. And he's very, very special in that way because he almost didn't make it in the world. He's, believe it or not, weighed 4 pounds and 7 ounces. And he came 7 months premature, and he came to a mother who was only, when he was born, I was 5 days from 17. I have foster children and biological children, and my family is probably around, 300-400 children by now.
She's always been open-minded about everything. Whether she liked what I was doing or not, as long as she could tell that I really wanted to do it, and she supported it.
He's always been a little different. I mean, in a good way. When they were kids, we found this out later, that their friends would say when they were coming to our house, "Let's go over to the Valley of the Giants."
Romance to me is more a feeling than an event. I mean, anybody can have a candlelit dinner, but if you don't have those kind of intimate feelings toward the person, then there's no romance. Find intelligent women attractive, sense of humor, witty, spontaneous. Anyone I was going to be with would know that she could depend on me, that I would be there whenever she needed me, that I was going to be honest with her, always. One of my goals is to obtain my private pilot's license. Wouldn't you like to work as a U.S. Marshal? I'd like to have some kids, my own kids. And I'll probably maybe adopt a couple as well. I think any place you feel most comfortable in is you consider home. And Alaska is home.
.3 KGOT, Mark Murphy playing the hits, all the songs you want to hear from the hit lines at 258 KGOT. New Steve Perry, check out the lead guitar on this song. The guy's name is Lincoln Brewster. He was born in Homer, grew up in Fairbanks, and here he is with Steve Perry. You Better Wait on 101.3 KGOT. And most people don't believe that I'm shy simply because I am in radio. They think, oh, how can you be shy if you're on the radio? And it's a totally different thing. When I'm locked in here, when I'm locked in my studio, and nobody else is around, I'm in control, and it's a different world. It really is. If I'm out doing a live broadcast, for instance, I can be a ham, and I can have fun, and I can be, really, I become someone different almost. And it's kind of weird, but that's just the way it is. A lot of people think, oh yeah, DJs, boy, they must have women running around. And I don't know if it's really a misconception or not, because there probably is a lot of guys that have a lot of women running around and that are disc jockeys, but I really don't go out very much, like to the nightclubs, unless we're doing a promotion. And that's really, I think, where a lot of that generates. You go to the nightclubs, and the disc jockey at the nightclub will say, hey, so-and-so's here from KGOT, and all of a sudden, no, where, you know? And I just don't go to clubs unless I have to. Every time you come in here and you go on the air, it's different. Different people are going to call you. You're playing different music, and you've got different things to talk about, and it's just a lot of fun. A lot of people will say, oh my God, that's what you look like. And it's weird, because when I was growing up listening to the radio thinking, gosh, this is what I want to do someday too, that's what I thought. I always drove around thinking, I wonder what this person looks like. I always like to hear that. So that's what you look like. It was like, oh, I'm sorry to disappoint you, you know, but that's the facts of life. This is what you get, baby. Now and again, fan mail comes in, but it's not one of those things that I run to the mailbox every day to check, because it's very, very rare. I just started throwing tapes and resumes everywhere from Maine to Florida to Anchorage, Alaska. And somebody was joking about, oh, yeah, you'll probably get a job in Alaska or something. They're like, yeah, right. And sure enough, the general manager was interested in my tape and the resume, and we started talking on the phone. They flew me up for an interview. I spent about a week up here. It was April. No clouds whatsoever, about 50, 55 degrees, which is, you know, very unusual, but just happened to be the nicest week ever. And I thought, yeah, I can hang here for a year or two. I gave myself a couple of years, and I've already been up here about 4.5 years. So. When I'm away from the office, you will find me on the golf course or on a tennis court. I love to play golf and tennis. I like doing a lot of different things outdoors, like going to baseball games. We have a couple of pretty good Alaska Baseball League teams here in Anchorage, so I like to go hang out at the ballpark. I also like sitting around the house, watching the tube, or a game of Monopoly, a game of Risk. I mean, I just love to play games. I love to play games, whether they're out on the field or inside. I think the most important quality in a woman is her ability to have fun. I like somebody who can take a joke and dish it right back. Someone who's very smart when it comes to finances. I'm pretty nitpicky about that sort of thing. And I think if you got the money, spend it, great. But a lot of people are very careless with their money. They don't think about the future. And I think it's very important to find somebody who knows how to manage her money wisely. I think I have a lot to bring to a relationship. I'm very fun to be around. I'm a very secure person. I'm a very independent person. I think I'm pretty unique in the sense that I tend to get along with a lot of people. I don't think I have a whole lot of enemies. If somebody is a really, really good cook, I think I'd probably turn into putty. Long-term goals would be retirement and playing golf every day. A little shorter-term goal than that would be possibly owning or running a radio station. I really just have one rule, and that is to have fun. I'm very happy with what I have. I enjoy life.
Well, originally how I got into boxing was I went to see what was available here in Anchorage, and I ran across a team that was working out, and I asked if I could be on the team. I was told by the promoter then that he already had a team and that it was full, he didn't really need anybody else, but that I could spar if I wanted to. I did some sparring with one of his better guys, and he ended up letting me on the team. It's a chess game. It's a lot more of a chess game than most people realize. It's for every weakness, there's a strength. For every style, there's a counter style. Counter punch for every punch. It's a lot more to it than most people realize. I fought for the professional middleweight championship in 1984. It was a 10-round fight where I broke my hand in the first minute of the second round. The pain doesn't enter into it until after the fight. I was very disappointed, but still thought I could win. And I ended up losing the fight on a split decision. Promoting boxing came about in a way that's a little unusual. I would run into people all over town, and they would ask me when the next bout was going to be. And there were no bouts anymore. The boxing had pretty much stopped. So they kept asking me when there was going to be a bout and why I didn't put one on, and so finally I did. Goliath is my baby. He's about a 135-pound black lab, Mastiff, and Akita mix. I had Goliath's dad for 14 years, and now I've had Goliath for 6, so he's a real special to me. My youth was filled with sports and adventures. I grew up near a river in Sacramento, and I was a river rat, and I had a friend that owned a farm, so I pretty much lived on his farm and on the river. My adopted parents are older, so they thought all the things that I did were crazy. All the adventures and everything, they thought I was trying to hurt myself, which that really wasn't the plan, but sometimes happened. I met up with my natural dad when I was 28 years old. So it's been about 7 years. That was the first contact I'd had with him since I was about 4 years old. It was quite the experience to find out that my natural father was a lot like me, even though we'd never been around each other. He was a boxing champion, was a stunt man for MGM. I found out I wasn't crazy, I was supposed to be adventurous. What I like about riding motorcycles is I like the handling, the speed, the power. I have a Honda 700 Nighthawk street bike. I've taken it on 2 extensive trips. One trip was 10,000 miles in 30 days, both ways on the Alcan. And another trip I shipped it back east and went about 8,000 miles all up and down the East Coast. The qualities that I look for in a woman are most of all that they're a nice person with a good heart. Attraction is definitely part of it, but as I get older, the attraction part of it seems to be less and less, and the feeling becomes more and more. Romance to me is probably a little different than people in the lower 48, because I like to go out to Knik River Glacier and camp and things of that sort, and that's romantic to me. I guess my best characteristic is the same thing I'm looking for in a woman, is I have a good heart and I'm a nice person. I value family values, and very much want my own family someday. My long-term goals are to be a successful business person here in Alaska, to enjoy life to the fullest, and hopefully to meet somebody to share my life. Originally, I'm from Sacramento, California. Came up here on a 2-week vacation 18 years ago. Immediately, I felt like I was home. I knew I'd found where I wanted to live. In order for a relationship to work with me, a person would have to be willing to move to Alaska. I love Alaska. The opportunity, the people, the land, everything about it. Come for a visit. You won't want to leave.
The day I learned to tie my shoes, I really knew I was creative because my father was carving, and he was carving on the steps in our house. I wanted to carve and use a knife, and he said, if you want to use a knife, you're going to have to learn to tie your shoes. So I learned to tie my shoes right then and there on my own, and that's when I sat down and I started bringing things out that were already there, things that I could see. This is a soapstone, and it started out basically, this was the beginning of the shape over here. And what I saw, it's a bear. But when I first looked at it, I'd look at the rock, and I tried to decide what's already in the rock. It's easiest if you see something in the rock already, you don't have to take as much material away. It's already there. And if you notice on the back edge, it looks like a leg. And on the front edge, I saw a face of a bear. This hasn't been carved. This area has been worked, but basically this is the beginning of a bear walking in a river, walking upstream. I'm trying to become an artist full-time as an occupation, but I'm trying to do it in a way that I don't compromise what I want to make. I don't want to make things that are going to sell. I want to make things that I see, and sometimes things you see don't sell as quick. But in the long run, they're worth a lot more because they're really a part of you. Rather than be a starving artist, I take work wherever I can, and one of the things that I do is I repair sailboats, fishing boats, yachts. The whole idea in that is that it's a type of work that requires artistic ability. As a child, I grew up in an area where there were a lot of horses. It was a farming community, and that's what every child in a farming community wants, is their own horse. I basically grew up a childhood dream. I got to fish and hike and camp and spend a lot of time with my family and the families that were the neighbors. We knew our neighbors well. It was a very good experience. I didn't really know that I was Russian and Aleut as I was growing up. I found out I was adopted when I was older, when I understood things a lot better. I live near Seward, it's a coastal community, it's an ice-free port. Seward's my home, what I would call home now. Home is where your heart is. I look at a piece of material that I'm going to make art out of, and I almost would call it artwork itself, because the pieces that I choose aren't just any ordinary rock. There's something about them already that is already artful. The polar bear started from a piece of white alabaster. This is the natural texture on the rock. When I looked at it, I saw a shape of a polar bear, and I knew I wouldn't have to do too much to it to bring that polar bear out. And as I ended up chiseling away, the polar bear just showed right up out of it, and I didn't really work on it too much. It just happened. It wasn't something I had to work at. The face and the mask was a rather difficult one because I wasn't sure that that's what I wanted to do. But as soon as I got the mask started on it, I knew it looked like a parka hood. And once the face began, I knew that was the right piece for it. The reason that I spend so much time on my artwork or on my boats is because I don't have somebody to share the things that I would really like to be doing, like playing. So I find things to do to occupy my time that are productive and creative. The first date that I would have, she would know that she'd have to bring hiking boots and wool sweaters, and the first thing that we would do together would be go on a camping trip and go somewhere away from all other people so that we can be alone, so we can learn about each other without any distractions about how we should look or how we should act. Just go out and be ourselves. A woman that really, really attracts me is one that is strong in all aspects. Physically strong, emotionally strong, mentally strong. I think the secret to a successful relationship, well, can't say that I know at this point, but I'd say it's understanding, realizing other people's wants and needs, communication. I want to do everything that I possibly want to do. If there's one thing I don't want to do, I don't want to be decrepit, old, and look back. It's not that there's anything wrong with being old. It's going to happen to everybody. But I don't want to look back and say, yeah, I wish I would have tried that. I want to say, I tried it. I didn't do so good, but I did it. Long-term goals, I see myself being self-employed, a family business with the person that I love, doing the things that we love to do. When I'm riding a horse down a beach, it takes me away from all the problems and all the difficulties of the modern world. I almost feel like I'm back in time. I'd really like to be riding on a beach with another horse riding beside me, with the person that I really care about.